Welcome to Pulp Mythos. I'm Brian here with Spencer, and we're going to be talking about Perry Mason, the first episode. Well, let me rephrase that, HBO's Perry Mason, because this is definitely not like the original Perry Mason.
Well, it was
Well,
funny when I looked up like what time it came on. It listed apparently it's still playing on like AMC or TNT because it kept telling me 7:30, 8:30, 9. Like it plays all night on some channel, but I don't know which one.
yeah, I would like for some grandmother to stumble upon trying to watch Perry Mason and watch this. Anyone who's listening to this, hopefully you've watched it. If not, and you just want to listen to our discussions on it, cool. Welcome. Anyone who's new to the channel, please subscribe, hit the bell, put us on your social media. We're going to be talking about this show every single Sunday evening as long as it's running. I guess the next 7 weeks after now. And
The rest
check
of
us
the
out on,
summer.
yeah, actually. And check us out on Fridays as we do movie reviews and other kinds of content will be coming to the channel soon. But yeah, Perry Mason. Gonna jump into it. So yeah, Perry Mason, what an interesting character. It's funny. We talk about The Wire a lot because it's one of our favorite shows,
Also on
and
HBO.
also an HBO series. And Perry Mason is very similar to, was it McNulty? What is his
Yeah,
name? In
McNulty.
that he's a character that is so flawed, and in some ways is sort of a bad guy, and yet he's really good at what he does, and he sort of takes joy in the hunt, in the case. And in this particular episode, I mean, we're shown, we're not given the details on the war stuff, but we know he was discharged dishonorably from the army. We know his wife left him, took their son. He has a farm. Some other people have land. He's refusing to give up the farm, even though clearly it's a lost cause. They have a freaking airport right next to his house.
Well, and if you looked at the cows, they looked malnourished. They looked
Yes.
very, yeah.
Um, he takes a job. I guess we'll go into that. He takes a job which is established early on to get dirt basically on an actor, and I guess there's some kind of moral clause in his contract or something crazy like that. And so he's willing to take a paycheck, $200, in order to destroy a guy's life for what he does in the privacy of his own home or bedroom, whatever. And at the same time,
Or the privacy of wherever it was he was at.
yeah. And then at the same time, he's willing to, blackmail the company in order to potentially destroy an up and coming actress's career at the same
Okay.
time.
The thing I was talking about, the graphic novel Criminal,
Hmm.
almost immediately, that's what it reminded me of because of the up and coming actress, the old movie.
Ed Brubaker, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of the ones you got me for, I think it was
Yes.
Christmas, but it reminded me a lot of that because it took place in the old film industry time frame and stuff. So I hope that they actually go into this still because in LA, we are introduced to a couple crooked cops. We are introduced to a lot of stuff like that. And I imagine that plays a big role, especially being out in LA, that those guys were so powerful that they were talking about a $10 million, purchase of this facility. Um, Also, I looked it up because you find out at the very beginning the ransom for the kidnapping was $100,000, and I was just like, man, that sounds like a lot of money back then. It
Yeah,
translated
30s.
to it translated to 1.8 million.
Well, yeah.
So $10 million. God, how much is that?
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, like you said, that the as far as getting us the studio system and how everybody's strong arming someone, everybody's dirty to some degree. The cops, which we see in this, the studio execs who are trying to. It's not clear why they're trying to mess over one of their employees. I don't know if it's a money situation or they just don't like him, but trying to get that dirt on him to destroy his career.
Well, what that reminds me of is any sports any sports contract. So if they're tied into this player for so many millions of dollars for so many years, they try to basically offload that onto another team. They try to trade them. They try to get what they can to offload that contract. So maybe they were supposed to owe him X amount of dollars for X amount of films, but if he breaches that contract, then they don't owe him shit.
Hmm. And then them having goons willing to rough up Perry Mason, the whole lighter to the gun barrel, torture, something,
That
not
was
going to kill him,
interesting.
not going to kill him, but going to hurt like hell.
That was interesting, though. I've never seen something like that.
Yeah. So yeah, going back to Perry Mason's the morality of the character, even down to him needing a tie and going to the morgue because it's the cheapest way, buy it off a dead body, basically.
That
So
was fantastic.
yeah, morally, at least with the first episode, you don't really have bead on is he a good guy? Obviously he's the main character, so clearly there's going to be some good in him, but the way he's painted in the first episode is yeah, morally gray character who's just basically out for a paycheck.
Well, and they didn't go into his military history past very much, other than he was discharged during the case when he was testifying. He lost his cool. He's yelling at the judge, yelling at his lawyer, who was clearly incompetent. But
Great scene. It was
yeah,
funny.
it went into his, talking about his discharge. So what he got discharged for, I'm sure that played a role in his marriage and probably his child, because they said the child was 9. So World War I ended in what, 1919, I think.
Yeah,
yeah,
around 1819, somewhere around there. Yeah.
So if the kid's 9, then that was like in 22, 23, which is right during the Great Depression. So, coming home from a war, also, right in the midst of the Great Depression, I imagine that there's a lot of different things that shaped him to be the person he is now.
Yes, and I'm hoping that. Well, I'm sure they're gonna dive into that as the series progresses. The very, I love the his whole taking the pictures. Him. What's funny when so we have the food scene. I'll call it the food scene when he's taking pictures of the actor. Yeah, that was a hell of a scene. But then he stops and then he sort of looks a little closer and then he starts taking more pictures. And the way it's done is you're just thinking, oh, he's sort of perving out a little bit. But no, he was doing it to do the blackmail. So he is a character that's always doing something. He thinks he's more clever than he is, because obviously, like he even says it. I think what did he say?
He said he overplayed his hand.
Overplayed his hand, yeah, exactly. But even him taking the pictures, the ending, where he's laying out, and we'll go into the case here in a minute. That's the meat of the episode. But him laying out the pictures and everything, clearly he, like I said, he's good at what he does. He knows how to solve a case. Clearly, John Lithgow's character, who I guess some big hotshot lawyer, knows that he's good and wanted to use his services.
Well, and I think that John Lithgow's character is going to be super important throughout. And it's funny because prior to all of this, we were like, he's going to be the bad guy. Still could be, but I don't think he is after watching.
Still could be, but yeah. And clearly, I did a little looking into some of these characters. I don't have their names written down. I wish I had done that. Maybe I'll try and have that for next.
Say the character. I might be able to.
Well, John Lithgow's assistant. She.
Nope. I don't remember that one.
She is in the classic 50s Perry Mason series. She's a major character in that show with Perry Mason. She works for him. So people were pointing out how this is somewhat of a prequel to Perry Mason becoming a lawyer, being that so almost these characters relationships that he has, it's sort of setting that up, in a way.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, I was reading an article on that. So what was another before we get into the case? Yeah, so Perry Mason has, like, so he lives in that farm. There's the airport next to it. They want to buy him out. He sort of has a girlfriend. I don't know if you want to call her a girlfriend. At least someone he hooks up with. Yet again, another crazy, amazing scene.
She's from Queen of the South, that Netflix show.
I've seen a couple episodes of that, and it was really good. That was one of those shows I've been wanting to actually sit down and dive into.
Yeah, me too. I watched like the first episode, and
yeah, actually, I might do that. Let me write that down. But yeah,
that scene was amazing.
That scene was very amazing. Hell of a performance.
Well, she like kicks him in the face,
dude,
and then
he's like, jammed down between the bed and the wall.
That was the best part, when she falls and she just gets up, and he's like, "Hey, you gonna help me?" She's like, "Man, you'll be all
right." Based on the preview for the season, did you watch the preview?
Yes.
Yeah. So apparently she's gonna stick around and be I guess somewhat of a love interest to his character. I wasn't sure if this was just going to be they hooked up and that's it. She does come back at the end of the episode, and not sure yet if it's just just a physical thing. She's just looking for a hookup, or if she genuinely sort of cares about him. I guess we'll discover that as the season progresses.
As the end of the episode was happening, and
she seemed concerned.
She seemed way more to care about him, because it wasn't. She knew what his reaction was. She knew why, which we're not 100% sure yet, other than he wanted to talk to his kid and his ex-wife wasn't letting him. But she seemed to try to like talk him off the edge. She was just trying to console him, distract him, and trying to hook up with him again. But he was so hammered, and went and grabbed a bat and destroyed a fire truck, which was his kids. But
outside of his son, we know he can't stand his ex. But outside of his son, does he care about her? We're not sure yet about who he cares about and doesn't.
I don't know that it's anybody yet. I mean, her name's like Lupe.
I looked that up. Lupe Gibbs.
Yeah. I only know some of the names, like I've said before. I keep the subtitles on.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
So that's how I know most of the names. But so they go into her a little bit, but I think that she is going to end up playing a much bigger role, because even after they had sex and it was crazy and everything, and he seemed to enjoy himself, he didn't seem to really care. She was like offering him money, and he's like, "You can stay here," and she's just like, "Well, I like to sleep in my own bed." He's like, "All right, see you later." Mm-hmm. He didn't care.
Yeah, it's going to be. I wonder if her being a pilot's going to play in later. Is he going to need to fly somewhere? Thinking
Probably.
about that. Maybe. Yeah, I don't. So the case. Let's get into the case. Oh, before we do that, the opening title, after we get the little opening sequence and it just Perry Mason pops up on the screen, I thought that was really cool. I also like the ending credits.
Yes.
Yeah, that was neat. So with the case, so the very opening of the episode, basically, the Dodsons they have a suitcase full of money. Clearly, there's a kidnapping situation. We'll call them the kidnappers, have kidnapped their child, and Charlie. Is it Charlie? There's the thing. That's the baby's name. And so they're like, "Give us, leave the briefcase. You'll get your son." They go down this like trolley thing and flash the child to show that they have it, and the child's sitting there, eyes open, which was so disturbing when we learned how that worked. Turns out they get the child and it's dead. And they, there you go.
And it had been.
And it had been. And the reason the eyes were open is because they were sewed open. So this leads to police investigation, and they lawyer up with John Lithgow, and they're all connected to this church, and that's where all the connections seem to be. This church. We hear about. I think her name was Alice, who I guess is the leader of the church. We don't meet her yet. We don't get into the church. We don't know any details about it. We just know that it seems to be a connective tissue between everyone who is involved with the Dodsons.
I don't know that she necessarily leads the church. I think that she may be not an actress. She might be an actress, but I think that they are using her because they mention that she can like heal people and stuff. So I think that, this is coming out of the end of the Great Depression and World War I and tensions already in Europe. It's so I think that people are clinging to hope, clinging to, religion, especially at that time, I imagine. And, using this figurehead that can heal people, kind of like the old mega churches that we see
Mm,
now. That's what it seemed like they were doing. So I
yeah.
don't know if she's the head of the church or the leader of the church, or if she's just the, I don't know, poster boy for the church.
Mm.
Like, you know, I don't know.
We have a couple sequences. One in which I think it's Emily Dodson, the mother, has some dialogue with Perry Mason. Great little scene. We have a sequence where he's interacting with a couple of the cops in the apartment. These are all part of his investigation. Nice scenes, dialogue heavy, great lighting. I noticed throughout the whole episode the lighting. I love the way that some of the scenes are lit based on the light coming through the windows. I really enjoyed that.
I
And
think
it,
that a lot of that too, not only the color contrast, but to me, instead of doing, um, making up every house in those kind of old wallpaper and all that stuff, I think the lighting helps a lot because it makes me think of older antique type things. So even without, maybe having an antique armoire somewhere, something like that, the colors help kind of put me in a time frame. Helps me because you look at Boardwalk Empire, they did a great job of that too. Um,
mm,
a lot of these period piece shows, when they do that, I mean, I know it's intentional, but I think they do a great job. Peaky Blinders is the same way. It's kind of like that gritty, you know, like brown and grays. Yeah,
mm.
I enjoy it.
The ending of the episode, we one revelation is that the cops or a cop is involved in this kidnapping scheme, and there's a big shootout. He kills a bunch of people, the kidnappers, I should say. But the thing that was most interesting about that scene was a line of dialogue when the kidnappers are discussing that they didn't kill the kid. It seems there's someone else involved in this. Uh, because they almost, I don't know, just the way the scene came off. They I don't know if that was always part of the plan. Like something else is going on.
Well, yeah, and I mean, it would have been way too easy for them to start this episode with,
Yeah.
unless each episode was a case, then that would have been, the end of the episode and the case was solved. But I think that his name is Enos, Ennis, I think, something like that.
Is that the
The
cop?
crooked cop. Yeah.
Okay.
He was the Red Scare in Watchmen, too.
Oh no. Oh
Yeah.
shit.
So um, HBO stays true to their
They
employees.
do. They really
But
do.
but I think that just kind of putting pieces together and what I watched, and a very far fetched hypothesis at this time, but I think that it's the church is responsible, and I think that looking at the time frame, um, and they mentioned it too. This guy owns like a not a drugstore, but kind of like one of those all-purpose general stores, and how the hell he has at that time frame like almost $2 million to hand somebody. What I'm thinking is he's either laundering money for organized crime, or he's laundering money for the church. I
Which could
also,
be both.
yeah, well, yeah, exactly. And I also think that the church, if they use this death and this family, kind of, they use it kind of like a, I don't know, a figurehead, like a point, like to draw people in. Because back then you don't have a lot of newsprint advertising for churches and stuff like that. However, if you get a headline, and maybe this healer lady, makes everything better, that's a way to draw people into the church too. And if it's a mega church, the more people, the more money.
Yeah. Well, that is the question. There's 7 entire episodes. Well, we've already established the kidnappers are dead. So we've already eliminated that. We know there's ties to the police are involved. Clearly there's someone else involved because the kidnappers during their conversation, allude to the fact that there's others involved. Why kill the child? I think, what is the motive of that? Um, and also if you're making one of these churches, they have money, so I can't see a scenario where they would need to kidnap a child for more money. There's got to be something more going on. And then in the preview, there's politics. I think somebody's running for mayor. Like the preview setting up all kind of political things going on in L.A., which may tie into this stuff.
Yeah, well, like we both said, organized crime. So even, back in the day, you look at politicians and stuff, and I mean, you watch Gangs of New York and they show Taft like
Mm-hmm.
sitting up there, like basically paying people to come vote. In the 1930s, is not a whole lot different than the late 1800s. So when you talk about how much money he had, um, you know, talk about political scandals and mega churches, this could be, like you said, a political ploy. Um, and I don't know what political ploy it is, whether it's uh, for, you know, the gain of the Hollywood people. I was trying to think of a
Yeah.
way to refer to them, but the Hollywood people, the police departments. I don't
Call
know.
this the studio system, or yeah, who are the ones who sort of run LA even today.
Yeah,
um, yeah, it's too early to really sit down and try and analyze and have even a guess of where this is going. Just it's episode 1 of an 8 episode storyline and mystery, and clearly we don't have all the pieces yet. But as far as establishing, that foundation, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed, solid hour. Perry Mason, the acting, Ray Rise, the actor,
yeah, Matthew Rise.
great. Yeah, you watched The Americans, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
this character, I mean, it's way different character, but he does a great job looking like shit. Like, and I, I mean, it is funny, but he pulls off looking like he's been up for 4 days. Like,
mm,
and that's not just a makeup thing; it's how he walks, how he moves. He's been through a lot, but he's able to make that believable. And to me, in a show like this, that goes a long way, because you look at, private investigators, detectives, and we talked about this when we watched the trailer, how hard he had to work. He's got this little camera, he's got to do the negatives, do all this stuff. There's no DNA. He's sitting there trying to um, talk about how somebody had to know to basically get that baby. It wasn't like they swooped in and took it. Like, they had to stake the house out. They had to watch. They had to know that dad was gone. They had to know that mom was asleep. So they had to kind of, stalk them and track them to be able to even take the baby to begin with. So he's got to put all this together without DNA, video cameras, like, almost. I mean, I'm sure they were able to collect fingerprints back then, but there was no system of fingerprints. So if it was a murderer from Las Vegas, there's no way to put it in a system and track it. So
Yeah.
all the work is very puzzle solving, and he does a good job making me believe that this is not, 2020.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Uh, yeah. So yeah, first episode solid. I want to spend more time with Perry Mason. I like the supporting cast. The mystery is interesting. Based on the trailer, clearly a lot more layers going to be introduced in the coming episodes. And yeah, that's about it, really. Looking through my notes. Yeah. Anything? Any other thoughts on Perry Mason?
No, I'm looking forward to seeing if him and Lupe get any. if she like kicks him in the face again.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Well, speaking of that, real quick before we wrap this up, yeah, that was the not just that scene, but like this episode went into that hard R HBO territory. Not only with the sex scenes, but with the like the baby, showing the dead body and
eyes
cutting,
sewn open.
pulling, yeah, just all that stuff. It was like, ooh, they really, yeah, they did not. I mean, yeah, they went for it. It earned that HBO badge.
Well, like you said, it's not someone significantly older who just stumbled upon it like, oh yeah, Perry Mason's on.
Yeah, if yeah, the old 1950s, style. No, it's not that. More in line with True Detective.
Yeah, I was thinking that The Wire, even Oz, how it was like really.
Yeah, you watched. Damn, you watched all the HBO shows. I forgot you did watch Oz.
Yeah, I've watched The Night Up.
I have. What have I? Did you? Yeah. What? No, you watched. We've watched The Wire and Game of Thrones,
Yep.
Sopranos.
Yep.
Barry. Oh, love it. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So we're gonna wrap this up here. We'll be back. As I said, Fridays we do movie reviews, so check those out. Sunday nights we'll be doing Perry Mason until it ends, and I think we're gonna do Lovecraft Country after that. I think they'll go right into each other, if I'm not mistaken.
I wouldn't imagine them not doing that.
Yeah, because I was hearing, I don't think they had a definite date on it, but I think the rumor was August, and this will damn near get to August. If actually, shit, it might go into August.
It should go right about the 20th or whatever. I don't know what that Sunday is.
So yeah. All right. So yeah, we'll stay tuned to the channel for more content. And yeah, thanks for watching or listening.
Bye.
Bye.